What's going on, guys? Jim Viscardi here. Brandon Davis with me on the couch. Christian Hoffer on the phone. Welcome to A Wild Podcast Has Appeared, the official Comicbook.com Pokemon podcast. Episode 2. So if you're just joining us, you don't have that much to catch up on. There's only one episode before this one. But we got a ton of stuff to talk about because this week is Detective Pikachu week. And we're going to get way deep into that. We have a ton of other stuff to cover. If you're new to the show, what we do here is we cover a bit of news. We do a bit of a deep dive on some stuff, and then Christian goes in with some Poke knowledge on a Pokemon of the week is basically what we've done here. So, but before we get started, because it's Brandon Davis's first time on the show, what we did last week was everyone sort of gave their first foray into Pokemon and how they got into it and all that jazz. Do you remember your first big Pokemon moment?
It was a disaster. So I remember being in elementary school. I think I was in first or second grade.
Okay.
I was in first grade. I was going to Lindcrest in New Jersey, and I wanted Pokemon Red for Game Boy. And all the other kids had Pokemon. My favorite Pokemon was Charizard. And I wanted Pokemon Red, and my grandfather went out, and he could only find Pokemon Blue. And
Blue was the one I had first.
But they weren't different. They weren't.
I mean, they were different enough that they had their own Pokemon.
But essentially, you could start with any of the three. And I thought I didn't understand that you could still start and still get a Charmander to start. And I was such a little brat about it. It's like, I want Pokemon Red. And I think I had both because I was spoiled.
Right. Yep.
Thanks, Grandpa. Thanks, Mom. But yeah, that was my first time playing. And then I remember when you had you'd be in the car and you'd hold the Game Boy up so the headlights behind you would light it up. And then I had the light that killed the battery too fast. And
Yep.
I always carry an extra AA battery. I was huge in the Game Boy Pokemon from the moment I accidentally played Pokemon Blue.
Nice. Christian, you got some new for those watching the video that goes up either on YouTube or on our Facebook pages or on the website. You'll see Christian Ed. It looks like you've got some new additions to your Pokemon shelf background.
Look at that shelf.
I do. Build-A-Bear was kind enough to send me 2 of their plushes. So you can see behind me to this side is a Pikachu. And above me is their brand new Psyduck figure.
Is that the Charizard hoodie on the Pikachu?
Psyduck.
It is the Charizard hoodie. I also got 2 different Pokeball shirts. There is the just standard Pokeball shirt, and then I think it's the Duskball is the other one, which is a pretty cool black one.
So to kind of dive right into it, and it's funny that we mentioned, we all basically started as kids, getting into Pokemon. And our first news item of the week is basically there was a new study that shows that playing too much Pokemon basically rewrites.
No such thing as too much Pokemon.
Huh?
I said no such thing as too much Pokemon.
It rewrites basically the topography of your brain to create a section to remember the names of all the Pokemon. Christian, why don't you dive in and tell us a bit more about what all was found?
So the study found that basically there's a portion of the brain in the visual cortex. And because we all spent our time looking at Pokemon on a Game Boy screen and we all held it about the same length away from our face, that somehow rewired our brain and it created the part of the brain that usually can identify animals. Now it can identify Pokemon. And so that holds true. You have to be a kid when you play it. But people, they tested all adults, all PhDs actually. And, they can still recognize what a Pokemon is. And they, when they were showing pictures of Wobbuffet, they're like, oh, that's a Wobbuffet. And the same portion of the brain would light up in everybody's brain. So it's the same exact region. There's a Pokemon region of the brain, apparently.
I wonder if things get real complicated when somene's looking at a giraffe gig and a giraffe. And they're I don't know.
My brain doesn't know what to do. I mean, I think as a kid, I was Pokemon and I could tell you every Pokemon. I could tell you every WWE wrestler in their hometown. Mm-hmm. So maybe when your brain is growing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a scientist, but
I mean, I can probably still do the rap. I won't do it now, but I could probably.
You can if you want to.
It's okay. But I think I probably tapped out from a knowledge base of just pure memory It's probably after Gen 3, because that's probably, I think, when I stepped out a little bit. But, like, yeah, I mean, I just even see it with my daughter now. Like, she's starting to pick stuff up, names that I totally didn't think that she would get, but she's spotting them, kind of left and right, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah. And this explains, this study also kind of explains why we can still remember like hundreds of different Pokemon, but, it takes a little bit more work to like recognize the different types of cars. Like, you drive 2 Fords by me and I couldn't tell you which ones, but I can name like 600 Pokemon.
Nice. All right. What else we got on the news front, Christian?
Well, keeping the plush theme going, PokemonCenter.com, which is the official retail store for Pokemon, they just released a new line of plushes, and they're basically Beanie Babies for all of the Kanto Pokemon. So the original 151 Pokemon. So they're pretty small. They're only like 5 to 6 inches like wide or tall or what have you. But the pretty cool thing is that they've got them all of the Gen 1 Pokemon.
So, does Mew technically count as a Gen 1
I say yes.
Pokemon?
Yes.
Even though you couldn't get Mew in the game.
But Mew is still part of like the Gen 1 story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's what it is. So we're going to define it by the story as opposed to what you could actually get in each generation.
Well, you could get it. You just had to go to Toys R Us to get it.
You could take a picture of Mew in Pokemon Snap.
Yeah.
That's true, you could.
And that's all Gen 1 Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. I just like having that round number. The 150 is nice. 151.
Yeah, but then what is so Togepi is I guess the first one of Gen 2?
Well, it's the first one that we learned.
Right.
Gen
It's not
2.
number 152, but it's the first one we learned of in Gen 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I think Mew is definitely the 151. I consider it 151.
I guess technically because he's so tied to Mewtwo, I guess. I don't. That's me being old and crotchety. But I've seen pictures of things. The Pokemon Center actually does some really good. Like, I love their collectibles. Like, it's one of those stuff where like you'll see some of the stuff when you go to Target and whatnot. I'm not bashing the stuff that you can find at Target, but like when you look at the stuff that you can get at the Pokemon Center, like I remember I got my first sort of hands on with it when the TCG tournament came to Nashville and they had their little store and whatnot, and I was going through it and I was just like, it's such a cool thing that they make a bunch of like stuff for kind of all ages, but their plush in particular are really freaking cool. I don't like that you can only get it on the Pokemon Center with the new Beanie Baby ish ones, but I'm sure I will buy a few. Probably. Yeah. But they do have a really cool tie. It's a black tie that's got little tiny Pokeballs on it. It's like just like they're small enough that like you can get away with like wearing it and no one like really kind of noticing. But if someone like looked real close and then saw it, like it's a cool moment. It's actually a really nice thing. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. Speaking of the TCG, Unbroken Bonds is officially out. Yes,
it is officially out. So this continues the tag team GX theme that we've seen in recent sets. It's got some pretty cool cards. Charizard's, I believe Charizard's one of them. Charizard and Reshiram. Mm-hmm. We've got Lucario and Melmetal team up together, and Machamp and Marshadow.
Mm-hmm. So this set doesn't necessarily do much to change the game in the sense that when Tag Team first came out to do it, it's just more of an extension of that with just some pretty cool cards. We actually got a set here in the office that we will probably be doing an unboxing of in the next week or two. So make sure you can tune into Comicbook.com when that happens. And that's just we got a weird sound going on above us, but it's okay. But the coolest thing about this one is we also got the trainer starter deck thing that comes with just like the energies and all that stuff. That is a cool package that, like, unfortunately for the people listening on this podcast, you won't be able to see it, and I'm not holding it, but whatever. It's a cool thing for folks who may want to get into the trading card game. It's a great way, I think, to get in that's a bit different from just like the regular sort of starter box sets that they send out. I've started getting back into it. when we started getting some of these sets in the office, just because they're just super cool cards. I play the digital version of it with with my kid because she likes looking at the games. But I think I may have a new addiction starting back up. So
Are you gonna start doing tournaments?
we may have to start doing office tournaments.
Oh.
And then I'll go pro, basically. As well.
Well,
you do.
Columbus is the where they're doing the national tournament here in like 3 weeks, so you can come on up.
I smell a field trip. In 3 weeks? Oh, 3 weeks is not long enough for me to be prepared
Oh,
to dive
No,
back
actually,
in fully.
It's July. I got my game tournament
all
squared
right.
up. We
All
got-
right.
okay.
So we'll go to that, and then we'll go to Comic-Con.
So we'll have like an office qualifier.
Right. Exactly.
And then we'll send the
And then
winner
we'll
from the
send-
office up to Columbus to face off with Chase and then Christian. Sorry.
So yeah, okay, cool. I guess we'll move on to Pokemon Go.
Yep, a lot of big stuff happening in Pokemon Go. The first big thing is Detective Pikachu has come to Pokemon Go. You can catch him now. In order to do so, you need to use your AR photo feature. Detective Pikachu will photobomb you, and then you can go and capture it. And as part of that event, a bunch of the Pokemon that are from the movie are also spawning in mass quantities, including a shiny Apom.
Ooh. So they've done this. So this is the selfie feature is a new-ish feature that they've.
Yes.
But they've done the pop-in thing before, right? Wasn't
Yes.
it with Ash's Pikachu?
So the first one they did was Smeargle, which was the last
Right.
Gen 2 Pokemon that they hadn't introduced. That's the one with the paintbrush for tail.
Yep.
And then for April Fools, they had Ash and his Pikachu kind of photobomb. And once that happened, Ash's Pikachu would pop up with his baseball cap.
So is there a spawn rate? Like it's not going to happen. It doesn't happen every time, right?
No, it doesn't happen anytime. It seems to be a little bit more frequent than Smeargle because Smeargle is like permanently in the game.
Right.
But this one, like the first time I did, I pulled up the AR selfie and took a picture of my Pokemon. The very first picture of my Pokemon had Detective Pikachu in it. So
I'd imagine
I think
the rate
people
would
get it.
probably be higher because they want people excited about the movie.
Yeah, and it's only going to be around for I think like a week and a half until the 17th.
Are you still playing?
Pokemon Go.
Mm-hmm.
Not when I travel. When I go international, I like to try to find the Pokemon that you can't find. I remember I was in Australia on a set visit, and I found a Kangaskhan, and I was running around the airport like, "It's here somewhere! It's here somewhere! I'm not gonna make my flight. But I'm gonna get this Pokemon," and I caught it. So I did that, and I'm going to London in a week, so I'm hoping to catch a Mr. Mime. Are there more, Christian? Are there more exclusive to
Region locked ones?
Yeah, are there more of those? Because
Or is it still the original set?
No, there's a bunch of them that are regional exclusive. Like they've kind of gotten to the point where different countries, like Canada, has its own regional exclusive. Basically, anything south of Orlando has its own regional exclusive. Like Fiji has its own regional exclusive.
what
So
is
yeah,
Fiji's regional exclusive?
it's Relicanth.
Oh,
So
Alright.
it's that old fish. Like the
Pokemon
fossil
Go
fish.
was the closest we ever came to world peace when it first came out. Everybody just was having fun and being nice and had something in common.
I'll just never forget, just like when it was such a bit when it first hit. So many people, you could tell who was playing it, right?
Oh, yeah,
but there
they were
were
out there
people who
getting
were
hit
just
by
like,
cars.
walking along the streets, just like holding their phones out in front
It
of
was
them.
me.
Or just like you couldn't go to a park without it just being.
No, I went on my lunch break just to like somewhere outside of Nashville, and I just saw like people outside walking outside of BurgerFi trying to find Pokemon. I was like, "Hey, you want to be friends?" And made friends. It was the easiest week of my life to make friends. I've never made so many friends in a week. It's like, yeah. What do you think was bigger, Pokemon Go, the number of people who were playing that, and the number of people who saw Endgame in the past 2 weeks? Because I feel like these two things, like you can go up to someone right now and say, "Did you see Avengers?" And most of the time they'll say yes.
Right.
And back then you could go up to somebody, "Are you playing Pokemon Go?" And they would say yes.
I would have said, based on the amount of money that Niantic said that they were making,
Possibly Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go is probably
Because people of all ages are saying it too. Because right now people are like, "Oh, I didn't watch all the other Marvel movies, so I don't care."
Right.
Everybody knows Pokemon. Everybody was playing. My mother was playing Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like everybody was playing.
Well, I was just saying, like we were saying last week that it was basically the game that Pokemon, like we as Pokemon fans growing up, like wanted to be able to like go out into the wild and catch Pokemon, and now we can do it. And it's,
I think it would have had longer legs it was never going to keep that size.
Right.
But I think it could have had longer legs at that size if they introduced battles in the beginning. I think
Yeah.
if there was a style of play like that you could have played with your friends and traded and battled, then it would have been that big for a long time, but it's still huge. It's obviously adding all those things that people want to see little by little over the past, what has it been, 2-3 years since it came out?
just about
Going
yeah.
on 3.
Going on
years.
3, yeah. It was summer of 2016, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. There's good news for folks though who have been playing Pokemon Go and are big Eevee fans, because we've had basically all of the Eeveelutions except for 2.
Yes.
It's weird.
Glaceon and Leafeon should be coming to the game soon. So the big problem here was in the main series games, you need to go to the Mossy Stone or the Glacial Stone, I think it was called, in order to evolve Eevee into one of those 2 forms. And obviously, you can't really just have like a fixed location and say, hey, show up to this stone in the middle of the woods if you want to evolve your Pokemon. So they kind of like held back on it, but a data mine revealed these new types of lures that seem to tie into some of those Pokemon that can only be evolved, at a certain location. And I think that's actually a pretty cool solution to, that particular evolution problem. A lot better than, the candies or the Sinnoh Stone that they've got running around right now.
What would you say is the strongest of the Eeveelutions in Pokemon Go right now?
In Pokemon Go, it's probably still Vaporeon, or
Which is
maybe
crazy.
Espeon.
Oh, okay.
One of the 2.
Yeah.
Those are probably 1 and 1A, depending on the battle.
Right. It's
So
still
legendary
it's still
types,
crazy to
whatever.
me that Vaporeon is still like one of the strongest of those. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it should,
I remember
it
that
should
was.
be. I mean, I'm a big Jolteon fan, and Jolteon's probably one of the worst in my opinion, but it's okay. I don't mind Mermaid Eevee being the strongest.
Eevee.
All right, I think that does it for us for our news section. When we come back, we are diving into Detective Pikachu. We're going to make some box office predictions. Brandon has seen the movie. We pretty much know everything about it. We won't go too deep. We're not going to go into spoilers because it's going to be out this week. We'll go into our spoiler discussion next week on Detective Pikachu. But make sure you stay tuned for that. All right, Detective Pikachu. I made a sorry, I didn't mean to curse, a big, bold claim that Detective Pikachu was going to make a lot of money. I initially said it was going to be a $2 billion movie. I am going to have to walk that one back.
Yeah.
Only because I did not anticipate the staying power that I think Endgame was going to have. But my math isn't necessarily because people who may be going to see Endgame a second or a third time are not going to see Detective Pikachu. My thing is from like a more Detective Pikachu is more of a family movie, and to take a family out to theaters, it's a lot of money. And so if they went to go do that,
Right.
to go see Avengers Endgame, they may have blown their movie budget potentially for that month or
Yeah,
whatever,
the
and they have to
average-
wait to see Detective Pikachu.
The average person goes to the movies once a year, and everybody just went to the movies.
Yeah.
So I think it makes it so hard to predict the box office.
Yeah.
Because I think Detective Pikachu has so much potential,
Mm-hmm.
but coming out right after Endgame is just like
I was
especially
hoping
after-
a week would have been enough buffer, and I still think it will do fine.
But do you think it could even beat Avengers third week?
Will Detective Pikachu
Will this-
opening weekend beat Avengers third week?
Yeah, I mean the fact that that's a question surprises me, because if you would have told Endgame exceeded, we had high expectations for Endgame.
Right.
Endgame found a way to exceed those. I mean,
Yep.
exceptionally.
Yep.
It's crazy how much money the movie's making, and it's obviously very front loaded. It's not going to do this forever.
No.
But it's still lasting longer than we thought it would.
Yep.
So Detective Pikachu, I would have told you 3 weeks ago, is probably going to make $100 million in its first weekend domestically. Now I feel like that's
You
too
don't think
much.
it's going to make $100 million?
I don't. I think the reviews are mixed positive,
They are.
and the trailers were better than the reviews.
Yep.
And I don't think reviews are going to be a make or break for this movie unless they were terrible. And it's a good movie. Yep. I enjoyed it. I think it was a safe entry to the Pokemon. Megan Peters loved it. I thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. But I just think it's not this incredible movie that people are going to go say, you have to go see this. You have to go. Like, Pokemon fans are going to go out in droves. So that's what it has going for it. Ryan Reynolds fans are going to come out, maybe not in droves, but they're going to come out.
We just said, well, but before that, Christian, what do you think it's going to do opening weekend?
I think it's going to do about 70 million.
I was going to say 60 to 80 somewhere.
God,
somewhere between 60 and 80.
Heartbroken.
Maybe even like.
But we just said, like, if everyone who plays Pokemon Go or played Pokemon Go goes to see this movie, it's got a shot.
If everyone goes, then it should make more than Avengers.
That's true. It should, but it won't. But it's okay. So let's say, like, even half, I would say, at least gets it over the 100 million mark.
100 million's a lot.
Mainly because I think, if anything, there may have been some families who did not go to see Endgame. I don't know. Endgame is totally screwing.
Think about how many screens are still going to be showing Endgame this weekend.
That's true.
It's good.
But I would imagine, if anything, Pikachu is probably going to edge out some of the other, Ugly Dolls is not going to have.
Oh, Pikachu is going to be a number.
Ugly Dolls is going to basically be out of theater.
It'll be some. I don't know which one's going to finish at the top. Endgame and Detective Pikachu will be close, 1 and 2. I think.
Yeah.
I think Endgame could still win, but I think the gap between whichever one of those comes in second and whatever movie comes in third is probably $50-60 million. That's a huge gap. Ugly Dolls does not come anywhere near Detective Pikachu. Sorry, STX Films. Yep. You tried with animation. Don't let this be your discouraging point, because it's just a tough weekend right now. I think Christian's on it. I think about
70 million. That's
70 million is probably right.
That hurts.
Do you think that if it would have had a higher Rotten Tomatoes score, that would have probably boosted up the box office? Because
it's currently sitting at 68.
It's a fan movie. It's for Pokemon fans, which is good.
All right, Ben Affleck.
No, listen, I'm telling you, I think that Pokemon fans are going to love it. I think if you ask somebody to go see it and they're not a big movie buff, they're not a big Pokemon fan, they'll go and they'll be like, that was Detective Pikachu was great. Psyduck was adorable. I love seeing it. Okay. It's just I think it's a safe movie, and it's not a mind-blowing go tell all your friends to watch it movie.
Right.
I would, like, my friends, I'll say watch it because you guys are my friends. But
so you don't think
Endgame hits the other audiences?
It does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, it's one of those things too where the thing that concerns me about it is I think it has, like, the potential for the week 2 drop off. May be big.
I'm not worried about it. Warner Brothers is already developing a sequel.
Well, that's true.
So they're gonna.
I think it's got some more staying power because kids are going to want to go and see it multiple times.
That's true. What do you think it's going to do worldwide, though?
I thought $1 billion would be super, super easy, but I think maybe revise that down to 700 million. Oh, you mean opening weekend or all, total?
Total. So we'll go total.
I think maybe 700 million might be lofty, but that's a huge success. Right. You make $700 million in this movie, that's a huge success. Right. Massive. So
it's so weird how something like Endgame and even, the Captain Marvel and Aquamans of the world, have kind of shifted this perception of what is box office success.
It's crazy.
Right? And that, like, if a movie doesn't make $1 billion, did it really happen?
Right. Do you know how many movies have come out that have been great, even in franchises, films, like blockbuster films that don't make $1 billion?
Yeah, a lot.
Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't make $1 billion. Would you consider that a
Guardians.
success?
Yeah.
Guardians?
Yeah.
Yep.
Didn't
I
make
only
$1 billion.
think. Yeah.
Well, then,
Batman vs Superman, huge hit, didn't make $1 billion. Just kidding. I mean, I think this is I know that Warner Brothers has big plans for a expanded Pokemon world, and I think that this is going to be a success. And I think you'll see Detective Pikachu 2 very quickly, and then you'll see the risks, the more different type of Pokemon movies we could get. That will start bringing in. And maybe Detective Pikachu 2 is a little edgier, a little bit different. I thought this was very family oriented in a lot of ways, and I think the Pokemon Company had a lot to do with that, because I know there were elements of the movie that at first they were like, you can't use this, you can't use this, and then as they saw things coming together, they're like, okay, you can use this now, and you can use this now, and they ended up getting away with a lot more than they thought they were going to at first. So now that the Pokemon Company is on board, I think that Warner Brothers and Lionsgate will be able to take more risks and be able to do more creatively, and that will help this franchise in the future. And this is a good safe entry that's probably going to make $600 to $700 million, maybe a little bit more, and then it'll expand from there.
Do we think that doing it this way with Detective Pikachu, being like the first of the live action movies, it was the best way to potentially approach this? Do we think the first Pokemon live action movie could have done better or fared a bit better if it was either like an adaptation of sorts, or like it's Detective Pikachu is an adaptation, but more like in line with what we know from the anime and the manga and
I guess it depends what the goal is. If you want immediate box office gratification, which Warner Brothers has shown to want in their DC properties, then no, it's not. Because if you have Ash Ketchum in the film, if it's a trainer story, you reach out to even more people. You hit your Pokemon audience even harder. But if you want to build and you want to have a universe, I think it's a very safe, smart play that doesn't, define the universe, but also sets the stage for plenty more to come.
Christian, what do you think?
Well, I think that Detective Pikachu puts the focus on the Pokemon. If we did an Ash Ketchum movie, everyone would be like, the focus would all be on Ash and Misty and Brock. The Pokemon would weirdly take a back seat. So I think this is probably the best showcase that we've got, to actually show off, here's the actual strength of our franchise, which is, of course, the Pokemon.
Do you think you can do a movie where where there is no Pokemon that's speaking English or speaking the language of the audience?
I don't know, honestly. I think it's possible. I mean, look how we saw, Groot is insanely popular and he just says one thing over and over and over again.
That's true.
So I think it's doable, but, I think it'd be harder to do right. And I think that's another reason why they stuck with Detective Pikachu. He's a Pikachu that talks.
Smart.
I mean, my kid thinks that's the craziest thing into his 4-year-old brain is, there's a Pikachu who talks to his trainer.
I'm kind of in the middle, I think, of both you guys as far as what I think the best first would be. I think a movie that was a live action movie that was an adaptation that followed Ash and his journey, I don't think is necessarily the right move. I think potentially starting with a trainer wanting to get into this world and kind of exploring it that way, while still being able to focus on, potentially introducing a new character into this that gets exposed to, the world of Pokemon that's kind of already lived in the way that, we experienced the world in Detective Pikachu. I think would have probably been, for me, something I would have been really, really excited to see.
You're really going to like their third movie.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. You're really gonna, if they get there.
But it's interesting though, because like you have a movie like Detective Pikachu that's probably going to set, is its own story and is kind of an adaptation, but and this is like I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm gonna go see it this weekend. But even just kind of inferring, where this all ends up, I don't necessarily know where you go next. And I think that's probably my biggest.
You're going to ask that even more after you see the movie. I don't want to spoil anything, but based on the way the movie ends, it's really a question of where do we go from here?
Right.
I feel like you need new characters after this one, and I really like Justice Smith in this part, but I just don't know I don't want to spoil anything. I'll let you guys see the movie first, but it's a big question of where does it go from here?
Right. Because then I think easily, if and when you get to that third movie, it's kind of easy to break that out a bit. Or if you were to start like a spin-off, I guess, or something that took place in this world but followed a bit of a different path,
I want to go to Kanto so bad. Can I,
Yeah.
can I just like? Am I allowed to just want that more than anything?
I'm super excited about the
that
idea.
part of my brain. It's that part of my brain we talked about.
Right.
It wants to go there so badly.
But like there's a big part of me that's super excited about the idea of seeing what a live action organization like the Rocket organization can be with Team Rocket and all of that.
And the Elite Four, though, too.
But true gym battles with gym leaders and things like that.
I think those are some of the things the Pokemon Company was hesitant towards getting to in the movies, and I hope that in the future they will let them use it in the movies. But also, do you piss off like PETA if you show these Pokemon fighting? I think it's just so.
That's a very fine line, I guess.
Right, yeah, you got to tread carefully there. And I mean, they're fictional characters, but I don't know. It depends on what message you want. You have to handle that message, or just be willing to embrace it. Yeah, I don't. Listen. I grew up battling Pokemon. Did I end up fighting dogs at some point in my life? No, I didn't. I still think that's wrong, and you shouldn't have chicken fights. Right. So I leave it to my fictional characters in the game that were designed for that in the original games.
Right.
And I can tell the difference.
Yeah, you just brought up a whole
we don't have to go down that road.
Real whole dark rabbit hole for us. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm excited for what this movie's gonna do. I'm still super pumped to see it. I'm excited for my kid to see it.
It's a very good movie.
But what I think this movie will do is broaden the scope from an already broad awareness, I would say, stateside for a brand that I think is on the verge of taking another very strong foothold and potentially going on.
Marvel's torch is right there.
Right.
Like somebody's Endgame. I mean, Marvel's not dead, but that torch, that Marvel isn't going to be at Endgame again for a long time.
Right.
Somebody can take that. And right now it seems like Pokemon is in the right place if they can really fast track a next movie and start building and make quality movies. More than anything, kind of building on what you're saying, Detective Pikachu proves that Pokemon can work.
Yeah.
They work, and they work really well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I know, so we mentioned yesterday on the last episode of Comic Book Nation on like a bunch of studios backing away from like a quote unquote cinematic universe. But that's not to say that I don't think cinematic universes can still work. I think Pokemon is one that like it doesn't necessarily need to be as intricate as I think people may want it to be. But I think it has a better shot of becoming a next Transformers level type franchise. I mean, say what you will about the Transformers movie, but I mean, those movies make a ton of money. They've made a bunch of them. They're looking at doing it again. We're at that reset period for Transformers, and I think Pokemon can do that better. And I'm excited to see what that looks like kicking off with Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, like we're not gonna. I don't see us getting individual Pokemon movies.
No, I know we're not gonna get like a
Snorlax
movie.
Yeah, we're not gonna get Snorlax, the Winter Soldier. but you could tell different trainer stories. There's so much story you can tell.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I think it probably has a better chance of hitting a track more like Transformers did than something, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Where Transformers set up this world. It was, they were able to continue stories, bring new characters in, cycle old characters
out. Go back in time.
Right, go back, do time travel and explore, a ton of different stuff. That's kind of the route I want it to take.
In the first few minutes of this movie.
Explodey Michael Bay.
Yeah, they'll show you in the first few minutes of this movie that there is a history that is interesting, and we will want to explore it. So hopefully they get to that.
Excellent. All right, with that, let's get to the Pokemon of the week.
Okay.
Christian, what do we got? What do we got this week?
We got Poliwag. So, Poliwag, he's a cute little guy. He's a little tadpole Pokemon. Why do you think he has the swirl on his stomach?
Is it not to just hypnotize people?
Yeah.
No, those are his intestines.
Those are his intestines?
What?
Those are his intestines.
Okay, I need a little more. I need a little more here. My brain has just been rocked.
Poliwag is based off tadpoles, and tadpoles have this, semi-translucent skin. And if you take a look at a tadpole, a lot of them have these curled up intestines, which have a swirl pattern, and that carried over to the Pokemon version. So Poliwag, Poliwhirl, and Poliwrath all have their intestines sticking out and showing through their stomach.
Oh my god. I am just now terrified at the thought of seeing a live action polyrath and just like seeing just like food just like work its way through
Oh
the
my
stomach.
god, that's crazy.
That is, I was not expecting that answer because I was expecting the obvious hypnotizing thing.
Nope,
Oh.
nope. It's all horrifying.
Well, that's gonna. Well, that will make for absolutely when you're waiting online for Detective Pikachu this weekend. Turn to the person behind you, turn to the person in front of you, and say, "Hey, do you know what a pollywog is, right? Do you know what that swirl is?" And blow their minds. You will become the celebrity of the waiting line for Detective Pikachu this weekend, and then you can tell them you learned about it on A Wild Podcast Has Appeared, the official Comicbook.com Pokemon podcast. That about does it for us today. Brandon, thank you. Christian, thank you for this podcast comes out once a week, every Thursday. We are on, last week we really were on nothing because we were just starting, but now we are on iTunes. We are on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We have an RSS feed. You'll find a story on the site. Really, anywhere that you go and listen to podcasts, type in this title and you will find it. If you are an Amazon Alexa or Echo user, you can say, "Hey, Alexa, play A Wild Podcast Has Appeared," and boom, we'll start playing. So really, really cool.
That's really cool.
By all means, if you like this show, tell all your friends, tell your parents, tell your grandparents. But really, please go on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. We'll start reading some on the show as they start to roll in. And you win some Comicbook.com swag for sure. We'll send some T-shirts out and the works. BD, where can people find you online?
Alexa, stop.
Oh, did I just set off?
Oh, you set off.
Alexa,
I just
stop.
set
They
off
started playing our podcast in Christian's room. That's amazing.
Christian just had to put on headphones because I just activated his Alexa. I'm sorry.
That's great. You guys can find me online at Brandon Davis BD on all the social medias.
Christian, where can people find you?
Seahoffer Seabus on Twitter.
Excellent. You find me at Jim Viscardi. Thanks again for listening this week. We'll be back next week, next Thursday, same place, same time. We're out of here.